Hello and welcome to another episode of the PRFC Fan Show, a fan show by fans for fans. I'm Kevin.
And hello, Governor, and oi, crikey, I'm Edward. We have a spoonful of sugar of an episode for you today, don't we, Kevin?
Why are you doing this?
What am I doing?
You're talking with this obscene, stupid Australian accent.
And there's a reason, because you know who we have on the show today?
I do, and he's British, and the atrocity of an accent that you have is definitely not British. It's not even really Australian, but it's more Australian than
so
British.
I've mixed up my countries then, have I?
Yeah, you've kind of killed them.
Speaking of mixing up countries, what is this, bollocks?
Yeah, it's my Bayern Munich jersey. You know, Bayern Munich still in the Champions League. Thought I'd celebrate it. Bayern Munich's red, so is PRFC. I thought, it'd be good.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, especially because this is the PRFC fan show. What does the PR stand for?
Phoenix Rising.
Oh, yeah, okay, Bayern Munich. Yeah, you're right. Go change.
I'm not going to change.
Kevin, this is my show. This is rubbish. Go change.
Your show? And no, I'm not going to change.
Crikey, Kevin, go change!
Fine. I'll be back. I do have a kind of... Are you happy?
Oh, yeah, loads better now. I'm over the moon. And speaking of being over the moon, we have a fantastic season coming
Mr. Belvedere, I'm going to handle this, okay? Look, we've got a great 2019 coming up. We learned so much from last year. We know what you all enjoyed from last year. We're going to bring that into this season. And then we've got all sorts of new ideas that we're going to put together and bring to you. It's going to be so cool because we feel like we can bring the fans more into the show, we can bring the players and the coaches more into the show, and we can do some unique things that we just never thought of before.
Yeah, spotted dick. That's all right. It's a pudding. I'm allowed to say it. Spotted dick.
Look, we are going to start this season off with a bang.
Bangers! And mash. It's a food.
We've got an interview with Coach Schantz, with Peter Ramage. It is awesome. We're going to start the season off right with them. I think you're going to love their insight, dispelling myths, telling us a little bit that maybe we didn't know about. So how about we see that interview?
Top notch. Let's get right to it.
I'm here with Coach Schantz and Coach Ramage. Gentlemen, thank you so much for spending time with me on our humble little show. It is great to be here with you. We're just going to get right to it because there's a lot of information people want to cover. We're never going to be able to cover it all. First of all, I want to say congrats on a fantastic season last year. What a ride. Louisville was cold as all get out, but it was a blast. And we didn't win it. What did it feel like when you were out there? First of all, classy act. Staying on the field while Louisville got the trophy just showed the Phoenix Rising as a classy act. What did it feel like that night when you were standing there on the field? What kind of emotions did you go through?
For me, it was...
Oh, you see, now this is what happens when I don't tell the guests to turn their phones off.
I had my ringer.
And this is staying on tape. In fact, I'm going to segment this. I'm going to just tweet this little part right here. It's like Mala all over again.
It's Jose Mourinho.
It's Jose Mourinho.
I'll call him later. So
what was it like for you guys? You're standing there on the field and watching them get the trophy after everything we'd gone through that year.
Yeah, it was it was disappointing, but there was also an element of pride in standing there as finalists. Louisville, as we scouted, they were they were the best team in the USL. Proved that on the night, but it was a proud moment to be standing there with a group of guys that gave absolutely everything, and we were just one step short. But it gives us the food for motivation to come back this year and try and be victorious here in Phoenix.
Coach Schantz, anything you want to add?
For me, that moment was kind of like, to be 100% honest, it was kind of stress relieving in a sense. I was gutted for the players, and my disappointment was. I'm a coach that every night I'm up all night and second guessing every decision, so I knew I was going to go through that, but I was gutted for the boys to not be able to lift another trophy. But the stress relief in a sense that the run we had gone on since I had become interim and these guys had gone with me, to know that we were one of the last two teams to be practicing and training, and and that Monday we didn't have practice, and a lot of questions were going to be answered in that 48-hour period. And I think it was, for me, being able to look at Didier and know that I did my very best for him, and that the players did their very best. It was all honorable and great, you know. But it really did leave a sour taste in my mouth, knowing that why we could come so far to not win it, you know. And so now we have a pretty clear goal this year.
Well, it's that ultra competitive feeling that you have. You know, I know you played some, Rick, and of course, Peter. We're going to get to you in just a second on how much you played. It can be gut wrenching, and it usually takes a couple of days to get over. Would never pretend to be at that level, but even when my rinky-dink stuff, you know, it hurt. It hurt really bad because you do put so much work into it. But you should be congratulated. We're not going to get into it today in any detail, but Judas Priest, we went through a lot last year, and we took it as far as we possibly could. I do have one question. This is a fan question. This is a big argument on Twitter, if you'll recall, from right after the game. Do you feel like the cold played a factor in our performance that night?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think there was a lot of things that were thrown at us in the weeks leading up to it. Obviously, we lost Chris the week before to a hamstring injury, which was, you know, a big blow to us. He was our top goal scorer. That's probably something for the players more to answer than us, but I didn't think it was. I mean, that's me saying, and I'm from the northeast of England.
Yeah,
I'm used to that weather, but I'm playing in that kind of weather, so it's hard for me to answer that from a playing point of view.
Oh God, I was freezing, but my feet were cold, so I can only imagine. I remember as a player, if my toes could stay warm, it didn't matter what the rest of my body was. So the adrenaline, once the game got going, the weather was fine. You'd rather play in a little bit colder anyways. You know, it's a little, for me, it's a little bit easier to breathe. So I think that the weather didn't play a part at all. You know, I mean, being away from home was, I think, was a goal difference between the two teams. You know, if we play that game here, I think we win 1-0, and hopefully someday USL figures out how to get a neutral venue and we can get a full stadium. That'd be pretty awesome.
Wouldn't it? Well, we're good. You know, time will tell.
Yeah.
Things can only improve. I appreciate the perspective. Truthfully, when I watched the game, I didn't see the cold being a factor.
No.
I really didn't. So we played the best we could, and you know, when it came to us as the fans on the side, we were plenty warm because we had bourbon flowing through us. The fans in Nashville were great, and we went to their pregame party, and they had a truckload of some of the best Kentucky bourbon I've ever had in my life. So I remember most of the game. It was good. You know, something I got to bring up, Rick, is that, you know, we had an interview before. You know, we haven't yet, Peter. Today's the first time, but you know, I did think that after that interview that you know, we'd become, you know, kind of BFFs, you know. And I was trying to get your attention on the sidelines,
Yeah.
and you saw me, but you didn't recognize me. And you know, I was like, you know, I was kind of hurt about that, and so I was wondering, did you get the friendship bracelet I sent you?
Well, because of that, I got to show you something. Inside our locker room in the hallways, your picture's up on the wall.
Now I feel better.
So you should feel better.
I should.
I looked up in the crowd after all of our wins looking for you. My wife was always sitting a little behind you, and I'd blow her a kiss, and I never knew why you were blowing me a kiss back. I was just like, this is a little bit strange, but I guess we're good buds.
I'm slightly embarrassed, and yet fond memories. Let's switch gears. How did you get the nickname Rambo?
Ramage.
The only thing you have an R and an A and an M. Okay,
No,
Ram.
It came from my dad. He was a high-level rugby player back home in England,
Really?
known for his tackling. So he was always nicknamed Rambo, and it kind of just fell onto me. Tough tackling defender, kind of followed the father.
That's a nickname to be proud of, right there.
Yeah, well,
That's
Aaron, he goes on about Aaron Ramsey, but you know, being obviously a little bit older, I'm kind of thinking that Aaron Ramsey's got it from me because you know, I was in the Premier League before him, so it was
I
just
don't even think he's seen the movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I've seen the John Rambo movies. I've seen him going out in the jungle and everything. You know, it's.
Every theory out there just got kiboshed, you guys.
It was actually funny because when I was at Crystal Palace, they obviously my nickname. I've still got the T-shirt somewhere in the house of me with Rambo, and I'll find it for you.
That would be awesome. Just to see it. That would be awesome. All right, incredible. We were talking before that when you, Sean Wright Phillips, and Jordan Stewart showed up.
Yeah.
It's just like you guys got plopped down, like the soccer fairy came by and just went bing, 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 and you guys appeared. And there wasn't really an explanation. At least I didn't see an explanation. And talking to fans, they aren't really sure. So how did you end up with Phoenix Rising?
Because of Mark Bircham and Frank Yeller. Obviously,
Really?
they were the management duo at the time. I was at QPR when Birch was a coach there many a year ago. So when I was in a kind of a crossroads in my career, Birch rang me up and said, "Do you want to come out to Arizona?" I was like, "I don't know where that is, but you know, I'll take a punt." Literally jumped on the next flight and came out here, and that was in 2016.
What month was that?
It was August.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, literally dropped me off. I rolled into Sky Harbour Internationals, the arrivals in a hoodie and a pair of like sweatpants, and I was sweating buckets. But they
Welcome
came
to
in the
Phoenix.
2016. But Frank saw me the vision on what was going ahead for 2017. And to be honest, as soon as I spoke to Frank about that, it was a no-brainer for me.
Wow. Now you brought your family out here.
Yep.
Have they forgiven you yet?
No, they love it.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah,
That's
my
great.
two daughters are starting to get a little bit of an American accent, which is quite
Oh, boy.
annoying. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, they love
Says
it.
the guy named Rambo.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's so funny. I love England. I've been to England many times, and the weather is very different. I thought it was funny. The MLS posted something the other day talking about how cold the coldest games, and it was like 18 degrees, and I'm like, that's, you know, you can run around naked on the field at 18 degrees. That's not a problem.
Have a night out in Newcastle, and you'll understand what cold weather and what people really go through.
Newcastle is brutal. And by the way, I didn't know this till I was doing some research, that you started at Newcastle. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Spunky team, good beer. You know, it's a double winner right there. And so when it comes to Newcastle, Crystal Palace, you were at Barnsley.
Barnsley.
Yeah, Barnsley.
Barnsley. Barnsley.
And who am I forgetting in the end?
QPR.
Yeah, QPR. Who was the club that you had the fondest memories with? I don't want you to choose a favorite, but
Favourite is I'm a Newcastle fan, always have been. Cut me in half in black and white. So playing for them was the greatest moment, but the greatest season was when we was at Crystal Palace, and we won promotion to the Premier League. I played all but 4 games of that regular season, so it was that was my fondest season playing. But the best team to play for me was I'm a Newcastle fan.
there you go. Black and white stripes.
Going to the Emirates and getting a point and then beating the Arsenal at home is probably one of the highlights of my career.
Awesome. So, the best is yet to come.
Yeah.
That's what we're figuring out. All right, so I got to grab something here real quick. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask you to give me a 2-minute synopsis of your career, because there are a lot of people who don't understand it.
Okay.
And before you start, Siri, set a timer for 2 minutes.
Setting the timer.
Go.
Okay, your timer is set for 2 minutes.
If I saw when the series
Yeah, there you go,
the
yeah.
series taking up my time.
Yeah,
Went to Newcastle as an 11-year-old on trial for a 6-week trial. Ended up staying for 14 years. Left Newcastle, went to QPR, had 4 years there. A couple of loan periods at Birmingham, Crystal Palace. Ended up joining Crystal Palace permanently after my QPR career finished. Then had a little stint at Barnsley for 2 years on loan there after we won promotion from the Premier League. Had 3 or 4 months in India, and then ended up here in Uncle Sam's state, or was it Uncle Sam's or Uncle whatever, Donald Trump's country, whatever. Just flew over there.
America. We call it America.
America. Came over here and finished my career here in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, what a bizarre turn of events that was for your life. You still have 1 minute and 3 seconds.
Left when I got bombed by these guys. I didn't want the old experience.
I had to cut him.
I'll let you off the hook. That's a record. You can learn from that.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
You know. So I did hear a rumor that you're having a barbecue on Sunday. You're having the coaches and the players over.
Yeah, well, my missus says I am.
Yeah, you know. So my invite must have got lost in the mail somewhere.
Yeah, it's
If you
just
could-
like oops, must have got lost somewhere.
So you're sticking with just lost, and
Yeah.
you know, I don't have your address. So if you want
Somewhere
to,
with my friendship
You know,
bracelet.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I try to make friends. It's hard. Okay, winning the Western Conference in Orange County. Let's go the opposite from Louisville. How did that feel that night?
That was pretty awesome for me. Funny story. I don't know if many people know, but at the time,
Your time's up.
there you go.
Set your phone. Yeah. See?
Don't tell a guest to do it. Going into the playoffs, I had been having some troubles with my back, and that week leading up to Orange County, I was like, gosh, my back is killing me. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to sit down in the game. And I mean, the doctors were great. They were trying to get me all pumped up so I couldn't feel any pain and could coach the game. And I could barely walk. But I'll tell you what, man, when we won, hoisting that trophy up, there was no pain in the world that was going to stop me from celebrating with the guys. And it was, you know, that memory, that night, there were some good times taking photos of players and Didier and holding a trophy and, you know, hanging out with the staff. And, you know, it became a bit of a tradition as the playoffs went on. After we got going, that we would all take a photo holding an adult beverage and send it to Patrice wherever he was in the world at the time, and
Just giving him a cheers, huh?
yeah, cheers. It was always cheers to the boss, you know, after the game, and so it was fun, you know, that last one to take that picture with Didier holding the trophy and send it off to Patrice, and for him to be so happy and proud of us, it was kind of a cool moment for me.
That
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Just to echo everything Rick said there. You know, the amount of preparation that we all done to get the guys in a position to win, and then for us the pre-game talk was written when, you know, Orange County was posting legend with
Legend.
pictures of Didier, and you know,
Yeah.
it's quite ironic that he ended up being the one that ended their season, you know, and scoring the winner. So it was. I think a little bit of motivation was drawn from that, to not only for us as staff to get the guys ready, but for the players themselves to go out and be kind of shove two fingers up to all the Orange County fans that were posting all these, and
all that
had
crap.
the Western Conference champions flags, you know, flying before the game had even kicked off, and for the guys to lift the trophy on their pitch in front of, you know, 1,500 of our fans. It almost felt like we were at home, to be honest with you, when we were looking over from the bench, and that opposite stand was just full of a sea of red and black jerseys of Phoenix Rising. Was pretty awesome.
It was a great night, and I think when we're 20 years down the road, it's going to be a night that's going to be remembered in PRFC history. I mean, it was a great night.
That picture's on the wall too, next to you.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move to the off season. Lots of questions been going on. If you look at Twitter, everybody's trying to second guess you guys, right? Justin Vibber, who you know is very active on Twitter, he's part of the Arizona Soccer Radio Show, which is a
What's
new
up, Justin?
podcast. There you go. Shout out to Justin. He had a question. He said, Rick, as a full off-season coach, what was your biggest hurdle to overcome for this season?
The philosophy, installing kind of my philosophy on the team, I think was going to be a challenge. Talking about culture and what I wanted the club to grow up to be. That wasn't as challenging nearly as replacing guys that were leaving and doing it within a budget. You know, when I took over the team last year, the only changes I made was got a few loans from some friends at LAFC. Going into this year, we were starting essentially from scratch, and we had to build a team with a budget, and working with Bobby Dooley and the staff. It's not like fantasy football where you have 100 million and you can just pick and choose players and transfer every week whenever you want. The margins are very, very slim. You know, whether you're going to pay a player $2,000 a month, $5,000 or $10,000 a month, you have to be right. Because if you get wrong on a few of of the high-priced players in this league can kill a budget of a team, you know, and there's not a lot you can do about it. So we had to be very studious. The guys were unbelievable. You know, Rambo, Blair, and Corey watched a ton of film this offseason on players all over the world, and I feel like we made very good selections, and I'm extremely happy with the team that we've built, and can't wait to see them go through the season. But that was definitely the biggest hurdle for me, was kind of, it wasn't fantasy football anymore, it was the real deal.
It is, and a tight budget.
Yeah.
And Peter, as a player coach, right? You were a player for a long time, now you're a coach. What do you feel about the player union that's come up and what's happening there?
Yeah, to be honest with you,
that's why I'm asking him.
yeah, it's a strange one because I didn't really, I've heard a lot of whispers about it, more than whispers, but I don't really know a lot about what's entailed in it. I was a representative for the PFA in England when I was a player, so I kind of know what to fight for and what not to, but from my understanding, asking like I said, Rick and Blair and Corey here about what's going to go, or how it's going to go forward, seems it's a little bit different to how it's structured in England. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I think there does need to be one for a player's representative, and that's the player and me talking about it, but it needs to be working with the clubs. You can't just have one fighting one argument and one fighting the other. There needs to be a kind of a middle ground where everybody can come together. I don't know at what stage that is it now, so it'll be interesting to see going forward if both sides, you know, can work together.
It's going to be storming a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how it ends up. Unions are always going to cause consternation, but not always in a bad way.
On a side note for that, for what Rambo doesn't, Phoenix Rising's at the top end of the way players are treated. I know that for sure. You know, our guys they get meals, they get apartments, we treat them well when we travel, they're paid very well here, treated tremendous by the fans. So when the union sits down and you look at the spectrum from one team to those that don't do that, the middle ground is usually where the union presents. So I think Phoenix Rising is kind of leading the way for USL and a few other franchises as well. So I hope that the entire league kind of follows in our footsteps and raises that level and keeps it going high. Because once you start to treat the players like this, you're going to get a better product on the field and hopefully more butts in the seats, and that's what makes the owners happy.
I bet your food bill is huge. I was in the hallway when Waz came in and got lunch, and that man can stack some food on a plate. I mean, and then he just walked out. I think he took it in his car and took it home, and I was like, that was a mountain of food. Hey, big man, lots of food, I guess.
You might have just gotten in trouble. You just got yourself in trouble.
Dang it.
You got a spin on the wheel, Carl.
Still come on my show.
You got him in trouble. No, he was probably the last one to leave. So if everybody in the place is eating.
Oh, he was the last one to leave.
All right.
Because I was trying to sneak in and look at who was watching the championship league games, you know, and he was it. So
all right.
Got you out of that one, Carl. He's gonna hurt me. Aaron Blau with FirebirdSoccer.net had a great question. This is actually for you, Rick. He says, is there a coach you find yourself drawing from more than others? Whether it's Calderon or Guardiola or Mourinho or I like Joachim Löw. And of course he said himself, Blau with the Arizona Youth Organization.
I haven't been able to see Aaron's teams play, so Aaron, I'm sorry. If I get to, give me a shout and I'll come out and watch a training or something like that. I'm serious. Interesting. So I've read Jurgen Klopp wrote a book a couple years back when he was going to Liverpool about how they were going to press and the system that they were going to play, and I liked that. I've always been an Arsenal fan, so I like the game to be played in a beautiful way. So Arsene Wenger has probably had a big impact on me. And then what Pep has done at Barcelona and now Man City is probably, you have to be willing to adapt, but the coach that's left the biggest imprint, the two coaches, Clive Charles, when I played for him and was able to coach with him as a very young coach, the way he spoke to the players, the way he treated people, you'll never be a good manager if you're not a good person. and that was important to me is to kind of have some integrity, and I learned a lot of that from him. And it takes a long time to realize what that really means in this sport. And then Patrice, I think without saying much, Patrice really pushed me to be better. He challenged me in every way. Every time I said I know, he challenged me to if I really knew what the answers were to give them to him. So he challenged me, and it was not easy being an assistant coach for Patrice because I felt like I was in class every day. But I think that I learned a ton, and I hope that if you ask Patrice, he'd say that it's part of the American culture rubbed off on him, and that we had a really good relationship. And so Patrice and Clive were probably the two biggest.
Okay,
Yeah.
Interesting answer.
Yeah.
Arsene Wenger too is an interesting answer there.
I would love to be the professor someday.
There you go. It's funny because that's another thing that I've been trying to push is, we have a nickname for you, Rambo. We don't have a nickname for you yet.
No, I can't tell you.
Yeah. Nothing. This is for families. So one of the big topics again that fans are talking about is our defense, specifically our backs, because we've got a lot of guys who can fill positions there. Some of them have played different positions in the backs, right back, left back. There seems to be a lot of movement going on, still figuring out what we're going to do. Communication, of course, is key with backs, especially with each other and the keeper. Peter, how are you mitigating all that? How are you sorting it out? How are you making communication smooth as you move people in and out?
It's just about making sure that when one guy's got his opportunity that he's ready to go. We're trying to, like Rick said, build a team that can play out from the back. So, when we were looking into the summer recruitment in that department, it was players that were able to deal with the ball in tight spaces. And, I've coming from coaching at youth level, before coming out here, it was a big component for us was to producing footballers, not right backs, centre halves, left backs, because you got to be able to handle the ball. Your defence is your first line of attack, and your attack's your first line of defence. So, you've got to learn each other's sort of components of the game, and that was a big key to us when we were recruiting in the summer and watching, like I said, we're all watching film on players that were going to fit our style and add depth to that area that, if one guy got down hurt or was in a loss of form or whatever reason, then the next guy was ready to step up, and that transition was seamless.
It's interesting because you've got your left back covered with Amadou. Amadou is fantastic. Mustafa seems to be a great opposite for Amadou because you got that speed you're talking about building out of the back. It's where we fill in the middle, right? How is that going to work? How is it going to gel with the midfielders? I think we saw moments in preseason, but just moments. And maybe that's because the system's still being felt out by the players or whatever. We'll get to that in a minute. But what we like is that we're seeing something different from last year, something more beautiful game-ish than what we had last year, more complicated, and most of all, more offensive than defensive. And I do like that. How much, this is from Phoenix Rising Tactics, and we're going to show, he's going to ask the question. I'm going to ask it to you right now. How much do you and the rest of the coaching staff use film as a tool to get tactical instructions across to your players?
You want to go?
You can go.
Yeah, that's an ironic question, actually. So we, thanks to ownership, just recently invested in a new platform called Spidio. And Spidio is cameras that are in the stadium to get an above angle, but it also allows us on an iPad or a computer to zoom in, to zoom out. My favorite tool now has been the Apple Pencil to show the distance between players. We can shade areas in live time, in real time on our camera system. So for me, the guys, we actually trained in the stadium for the first month because of that, so that they could see every day in training that we were watching, and we were watching training and re-watching in the film and then showing them the mistakes and the decisions and the choices. We don't want to turn them into robots, but we want to show them that there's always other ideas and other options, and the system that we're playing, and what the shape is extremely important. So having a camera up above, I'll kind of like Rambo go a little bit more into like what he does and what they do with our game film and how they cut it and adapt it. But we use film, I would say, on the high end for a USL team. So I mean, Rambo has more to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that Rick pushed for, and you know, we're delighted to have it, because now it's like Big Brother, you can't hide. You know, you're always, we can see every inch of the pitch to be able to guide the players and also praise them. You know, it's not.
But the thought of you guys being able to measure my distance from other players would terrify me as a player. I mean,
It's pretty awesome.
It's
Yeah.
great. It's great for us to look from a tactical component that we can, like I said, we can show the guys, no, you could have been here or you could have been there, or actually, no, this app was brilliant. Well done. Now we need more of it. So it's a good learning tool from both sides of things. And you know, Blair's he's a wizard with the map book and preparing the guys with film that shows strengths and weaknesses of the opponent and our strengths and weaknesses to try and counter them. And it's something that, you know, Rick's high upon showing the guys during the week to prepare them for Saturday, that, you know, there's no stone unturned to make sure that these guys have got everything and all the information that when it comes game day on Saturday or whenever we're playing, that they're ready and they're knowledgeable to go.
are triangles still as important as they were in the 70s and 80s?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that old school and
It's not. It's you know, the way that we're wanting to play, there's going to be triangles, circles, rectangles, squares.
show
It's-
off?
But it is good, and like Rick said, you know, if you want to use the distance analogy, it's from like a centre half to your full back, the relationship between the centre half and the six, or the centre half and the two sixes, you know, and you can draw the areas and draw the angles, and you can say, no, you're here, or yeah, that's perfect.
Oh boy, Rising Tactic is drooling right now over the prospect of something like that. That's
And I would, again, you want to come down to the stadium, give me a shout on Twitter, send me a direct message, and I'll show you the system, I'll show you what we do, and it's really next level. And it's something that we're actually going to, hopefully, as the club grows, use for our youth component as well. So
Super.
get the little kids to start being able to learn from that and get those coaches involved.
wow, amazing. Could have used that years ago when I was
Yeah.
coaching. We heard that you're adopting some new techniques in practice. Pilates, I guess, has been introduced to the team. Is that right? And just some new ways to get that to you.
Pilates by ladies.
I'm a guy, man. I'm not on a soccer team.
Hey,
I just
I
sit at
said
home.
it until I did it. All of the women and husbands and everybody that's doing yoga and Pilates, I have another level of respect for you.
I don't think it's easy.
Yeah.
I think it's torture.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. But is it working? Is it something that's added to the strength of the team?
It takes a long time, but we've seen these guys are tremendous athletes, and their body control is phenomenal. But now what they're starting to realize is that there are different muscles in their core and in their back and hips and groins that really need to be strengthened on a regular basis. The stress, you think of a guy like Solo, how he whips his hips around on his crosses and how sharp he cuts on a dime, the stress he puts on his psoas and other muscles in his core. This I felt was an important thing for us as a team. Patrice had added stretching to our routine last year. We stretched every day, and we still do. We've kept that. And I thought this was able to take it one step further and just to continue each year to add a little bit more. And the people over at our yoga, oh my gosh, it's going to kill me.
Oh, they had a sign out there too.
Yeah. It's obviously Todd, you know, but
Yeah,
We'll
Todd
fill in
Deacon,
the-
I'm so sorry if he watches this, but I wanted to give him a shout out. But our yoga is awesome. The Foundry.
That's it.
So they're
That's it.
fantastic, and they've been unbelievable. And they don't make any of the guys feel like dummies because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I've been to a couple of yoga things. You have a
Yeah.
girlfriend. She's like, "Go to yoga with me," and then you just feel stupid while you're in there because you can't bend, and it's just it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
Anyways, the development of the players. I was interested to hear that this new camera system is going to be used for the youth. It sounds like you're very happy with how the youth systems and the development systems in Arizona are coming together. I mean, the addition of FC Tucson alone.
Oh yeah, I still, in my heart of hearts, think that it's too splintered, and that there's not enough cooperation amongst all the coaches and the clubs and the youth system in the Arizona, especially Arizona. You know, I know some clubs were trying to get U.S. development academies, and there's this league and there's that league, but really what we should all be doing is sharing information. We're trying to produce players that can play for our national team, not just compete against one another. So we hope that when Phoenix Rising gets into the MLS, that we can be the top of that pyramid in Arizona and everything can work and funnel in together. So when I talk about sharing information with our camera system to how we do things, to what we do, it's something that the guys at LAFC have been very open to us. They've shared information. Barcelona, with friends that I have there, Man City, guys that he knows. No one hides things. And I feel like in Arizona where these players are mine, and I hope we can get away from that someday. And I was part of the problem. I hope to be part of the solution too.
How much movement up and down between FC Tucson and Phoenix Rising do you expect to see?
Probably quite a bit. I think you'd see more, I wouldn't say up and down, I hate saying that. When we're away...
Well, just because we're up
I get it,
and
I
they're
get it.
down in Tucson.
When we
yeah.
travel, only 18 players can travel, and we have 23 on the roster. So on any given weekend, there are 3 or 4 players from Phoenix Rising could play for FC Tucson. Because the same ownership actually owns both teams, we have unlimited loans. So we can loan a player down for the weekend, and they come back and play for us the next weekend. It doesn't matter. So Alessandro Rigi is a perfect example. He's coming back from an ACL surgery, and once he starts to get fit, that instead of just like thrusting him into a game here for us, we can get him training in games in Tucson to make sure that he's ready. So it's a massive advantage. And the guys from Tucson came up to preseason with us, and we had quite a few, and you probably saw them playing in our games, and we were very impressed with some of them. So when you talk about Colin Fernandez, Amadou Dia, or if you have, you know, worst case scenario, 2 players go down in the same spot, we now have built-in depth that we don't have to go and sign a new player. We can just bring a guy up from Tucson. So I think you'll see that as they're doing well as individuals. We'll give them opportunities, but primarily for resources.
Well, I think it is a huge advantage for us, you know, and in some cases we're just catching up. Real Salt Lake, of course, as they're, you know, and the list goes on and on. So it's good to see that. You know, another thing we're trying to speculate on is what we're going to see on the pitch. What kind of formation are we going to see coming in? And you know, honestly, there is a poll out there from AZ Soccer Radio. You know, they said they started a poll, and everybody's guessing who's going to be in what the formation is going to be. You know, there's a $100 thing, so if you guys want to tell me what the formation is, that'd be
I don't know how. So so all of you out there in social media land, I know that every other coach in the league watches these things, so I can't give away too much information.
We'll take it offline. You know.
Yeah.
I can, you know, give you $5 for the info.
It's going to cost way more than $5.
No, but what we do see and what we're excited about is that it is a different style of play. We are watching the players doing different things. The movement's different. The way that they're supporting each other is different. We're a faster team somehow. I have no idea how we're a faster team. Adam John adds a lot to that, I think, which is great. It's going to be exciting. So when we roll into San Antonio this weekend, and it breaks my heart. I had a ticket, I was ready to go, and because of work, I'm not going to be able to.
Oh man.
It's just killing me. When we roll into San Antonio this weekend, are we going to see a new Phoenix Rising, something different from preseason that we haven't seen before, without giving any details away? Or do you think that we're going to see more of what we're seeing, but more refined now that we've had time to work out the wrinkles from preseason?
I think it'll be a combination of both. Because we're on the road in a game that it means something now. We can't be always expansive. And if you watched in preseason, there were times where I did not allow our goalkeepers to kick the ball long. So no matter how many players RSL sent forward or these teams were pressing us in our own half, I was forcing them to play out of the back. So a lot of people were kind of upset because we were losing the ball and getting scored on, but it was really an educational tool for us. But the idea is for the players to be free thinkers, to play within a shape and within a system, but to understand that the result is important. So at times we will press out of a 4-3-3 or what might look like a 4-4-2. At other times we'll have a low to mid block and look to counterattack with our speed. But you cannot be predictable, and you have to be willing as a coach to play. Our style will never change. The system and the approach at times may during the game. You know, there may be times where after 25, 30 minutes, you have to take 10 minutes where you kind of readjust and you sit back on the road a little bit and open up some space behind your opponent. Whereas at home, you may have an opponent that just sits back and defends in front of your goal and tries to counter against you. So as a coach and as a staff, we have to constantly prepare for all the different challenges that you're going to get in a match and be able to adjust on the fly. So we feel that the way we're playing right now is possession based with a lot of movement in the attack, keep the ball, and get a lot of opportunities on goal. And whether we do that by high press defensively or to just maintain possession, I think you'll see that'll change.
That must be a bit of an adjustment for you, because I don't recall you really being, when it comes to especially Crystal Palace, not being in an attacking defense, a forward pressing defense.
No, yeah, it's my time at Crystal Palace we were very defensive. It was almost like Phoenix Rising was last year. We played a 4-2-3-1 at Crystal Palace, and we had Wilfred Zaha going down one wing, Yannick Bolasie going down the other.
Bolasie, forgot about that.
And we had Glenn Murray up top, so it was kind of like having Solo Asante and JJ Johnson, and then Chris O'Diddy up top. It was similar to that, and we were very defensive minded, but that was because of the players that we had, and we mastered what we could do and why we were successful, because everybody knew their role. It's similar to how we were last year. We knew what we had and what we were good at, and ultimately was successful. This season, for me, looking at our squad, we've got a lot of players that can be interchangeable too. We haven't just got right wingers and left wingers. The left wingers can play on the right. We've got
everybody's arguing about who's going to be in what position.
Correct. And if you're arguing about it, just think what the opposition coaches are thinking about too. So and that's a great plus for us, is that we have guys who at the call of the coach can go and play in a different role, and he's comfortable doing so.
I have two last questions, so we're going to call it quits. First one is, and you might not be able to answer this, does Solomon come on the field as captain on Saturday?
Wow.
If you can't answer it, that's fine.
When is this going to be played?
We're gonna put this out on Saturday.
On Saturday? Solo's our captain. He's the leader of the team, but this year a little bit different in that we have a leadership group. We've identified 6 players that kind of handle everything in the locker room. Solo on game day, I love his passion. We love his energy. He brings the team together. But Jason Johnson, Carl Wazinski, they can be captains at any time. I think at some point this year, Kevon Lambert, as he grows into who he's going to be as a player, and Amadou Dia, and even AJ coming in as a new guy with some experience and being a center back, and it could change, but Solo, I think on game day is kind of our leader, so I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think anybody in the world is going to be surprised with that. That's why I felt like it was fairly safe to ask.
Today was his birthday. Happy birthday, Solo.
Oh, happy birthday. Yeah. So last question. I call them shenanigans of what's going on the East Coast when it comes to the Eastern Conference, right? You got Indy 11, you got, there's stuff going on out there. Some of it I think is kind of questionable with the contracts that have been going on. Who is the team you guys are going to be watching all season? Who you think we might meet up with in the Cup final?
Ooh.
Question.
Yeah. What do you think?
Nashville will be there or thereabouts. Can't discount Louisville. I think Nashville, because of what they've spent over the course of the off season and the squad that they've assembled. There's some high class players there. So for me,
They're almost buying a cup. You could say a lot of people are saying they're buying a cup, and I'm like, no, because they got to deal with us. But you know.
Yeah, they're very good. Their president of soccer operations is a good friend of mine, and he really knows the game well. They're taking the club to the MLS. And what we've seen is those clubs in their year before they go to MLS, historically, they have won the USL, I think except for last year, right? So they're going to be good, but I'm not going to discount some of the other organizations. I also think that the addition of Swope Park and St. Louis to the Eastern Conference is not going to be easy. You know, some of these teams now have to go into Kansas and play in the summertime,
And quality teams, right?
Right. Swope Park's very good. And what a great organization. And if they loan down players from their first team, they're going to be tough to beat as well. New York Red Bull 2 has got a great team. And again, you look at these MLS franchises, and on the day, if they loan down 5 or 6 guys from the first team, they can beat anyone. So, but I think your front runner is probably Nashville. I would love to see Louisville here for a Cup final rematch, though.
Wouldn't that be sweet?
That's kind of the dream, but we have to get there first, and it starts with San Antonio.
One game at a time.
Right.
Yep. Saturday's the day.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank you both for your time. This has been fantastic. The fans are going to love this. I mean,
Awesome.
we've dispelled some myths. You know, we've set some records straight. That's great. Last thing I've got, I've got that table reserved at Craft 64. You know, if you guys want to go and spend a couple hours doing beer.
Yeah.
Europa Cup, isn't it? Also?
Yeah, we have work to do. Sorry, can't go to lunch with you.
You sure? 'Cause
Yeah.
I've got.
Nice hanging out with you though. Thanks for
Really?
your time.
Okay, well, I did bring friendship bracelets too.
You know, Kevin, accents aside, that was a bloody great interview. Thank you to Peter Ramage and Rick Schantz for being on the show. It was fantastic stuff. Everyone's going to be very excited to see that.
Yep, it's a great interview and it's a good start to the year. We appreciate you watching the show. This is the PRFC Fan Show, and we will see you next time.
Cheerio, mates.